Okay, hi everyone. This is Monday on Astral Oracles, and dark clouds are gathering over me, and the sun has just set over the rooftops of the Alpais in the old Arab quarter in Granada. Glad to be with you, and I'll do a channeling on homecoming. I think. I've decided to try to get to Denmark and make my way back there before moving on again. And it's weird because it doesn't necessarily feel like home, but this doesn't either. And the other day I was out walking in the woods. I do that a lot if you noticed, and I just realized that I feel at home walking. I feel at home in the woods, and I feel at home channeling. But I don't necessarily feel at home in any given culture. And at the same time, it's of course it's an interesting concept because it's a very abstract and a very emotional concept, the idea of home. And it doesn't exist in Spanish language in the way we think of it usually in the Germanic languages, where it's very important in Norse mythology, for instance, like all those different realms of the different beings, and that they're called, you know, Jotunheim, or where the giants live, and so forth, and so on. And there's also the idea of the Heimskringla, or the circle, the world encircling. That's one of the famous texts from, that was Snorre Sturluson, I believe, who wrote it. But it's called the Heimskringla, and it's again that idea, the Heim, the home, which is it's that place where you're always looking to go, and you also move into the world from. And I think it's very interesting. I would like to understand what it is that provokes this feeling, or brings it about, because it's also something that we're all striving for. It seems. So that would be interesting. And then I thought I'd bring in my Yahyel guide, Ignak, because he's a funny dude, and he also has this strange accent that I would like to figure out why it is he wants to speak in this way. It's very immediate. It's not something that I deliberately do, but when I really concentrate on the energies, they often come through with a funny accent, and then yeah, I kind of also feel it's a little silly, and sometimes I try to hold a little back on it, but I also really love it when I can just let it flow. So I'm glad you're here, and I hope you enjoy. Let's hear what Ignak has to say about this. Yes, and good day, 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 and top of the morning to you. Yes, you see, I do speak with this interesting full Irish accent, and it is my attempt to adjust myself to a vibration that goes into a frame of mind within the human beings where they better apprehend the vibration that I'm trying to bring to them. It partially has to do with our relationship to vowels, so we construe to some extent the relationship between the vowel and the consonant sound to be connected to each other, and therefore I do like this accent where it is more sing-songy, like in the way that it is presented. Well, the other reason is that I do enjoy the fact that, well, this accent, and though we do know it's not brought forward perfectly or matches anything, and we do hope we do not offend anyone by it, we would say that it matches, well, your preconceptions of an enchanted way of speaking this strange international tongue that you also like to express yourselves in. And that has to do with the English language also being quite utilitarian, and then turning it into something that's perhaps a bit more emotional for the being that we're coming through and for the beings that are listening to us. And so when we touch upon the question of emotion, this is quite relevant to the theme of home that you bring up. It's the idea that home is where the hearth is. No, it is where the heart is, and it is where the hearth is. It is the fire that is alive within you that burns in this place. And it is when you feel you have become separated from this fire that you feel the need to return home and warm yourself. It is, of course, in that sense, a metaphysical reality. We would rather use the expression that is a reality that is of a more abstract or energetic nature than the nature that you usually have defined yourselves as being in. But that's not to say that this is not changing, because it is a very special sensation. It's a sensation that's partially built from the idea of want, lack, separation, contrast. And these things, they are then matched up with the idea that there are a place where you belong. And this sense of belonging, it is something that all of you have had. All of you have been through a period of gestation. All of you have been through a period of growth before you were actually brought forward as human beings into this world. And in this period of growth, you would feel at home. And so notice again that home is to some extent related to the navel point. It is related to the navel point of the mother, but it is also related to the navel point of the human physiognomy. This is the place where you connect to that sense of home. This is the place where you attain connection, not only with outside phenomena, not only with other people, not only with animals that you hold dear, not only with the flowers or the landscapes or the foodstuffs, all the things that nourish you, not only with your great earth mother, but also with yourself. With yourself, there is within the navel point this place where you do connect to yourself. And what does connecting to yourself mean? It means, well, this somewhat abstract notion of the vibration of you, which we have been pointing to. It is a very concrete melody that is constantly playing in the background of your experience. And so, of course, you do not notice it, because it would be impossible for you to conceive of a situation that you were not a part of. Or that is, you can conceive of it, but this is fictitious. It is not something that you can experience while still being you. So being you means that you are, in a sense, playing this melody, but you decide how you play the instruments, you direct the orchestra. And so you can play this melody more or less out of tune. And when you are in tune, you do connect with these harmonies. And it shows itself by a sense of comfort. It shows itself by a sense of rapture. It shows itself by a sense of connection. It shows itself by a sense of belonging. It shows itself by a sense of immersion. It shows itself by a sense of curiosity. All these feelings, you know, that are feelings that you might perceive as being somewhat carried away, but at the same time, it still relates to, well, that framework, that warmth from the hearth that allows you to sit there quietly and actually be absorbed in the other thing that's going on within your personal or curious space, your own personal space. And so for a lot of you, these codes of the home, they do belong to certain physical configurations, because you were born and brought up in certain physical configurations. And so we do, for instance, hear the church bell ringings, and as this, well, this dear one that we are coming through, he grew up next to a church himself that always rang at the proper hours. He do sense this movement of time and this idea of the temple letting you know about the passage of time and the passage of the day to be somewhat comforting, somewhat pleasant, even though he do recognizes that it is somewhat arbitrary that people would still, well, create a world where this is happening, given that you do have clocks that you can keep track of time with should you want to. But it has to do with a lot of these irrational moments, and all of you have these irrational moments. It may be a type of food, it may be a temperature, it might be precipitation at a certain level, it might be, yes, a snowstorm, or even the approaching hurricane season. Depending on where you live, you have certain phenomenon that remind you of the cycle of the physical reality that you inhabit, that remind you that you are a part of something that is, well, greater than you. And then, even though we remind you that this is entirely your creation, and it most certainly is from the perspective of the higher self, There are also physical circumstances that do not change as easily, and some of these circumstances you connect to the landscapes, the languages, the energies that you arise from and that you come from. And so when this dear one says that he does not necessarily feel at home at the place that he was brought up or that he comes from, he is at the same time, through contrast, realizing that there are certain energies that cannot leave him, and these has to do with, for instance, well, the conventions of connection, the conventions of exchange, the conventions of reliability, the conventions of the idea of what it means to exchange words, why people utter them, and what they believe there is to be believed about the intention of these words. So that is to say that even though human beings may say the same things in translation, often the energetic codes being translated are quite different. And that is because essentially, even in human interactions, you are all trying to adjust these symphonies that are playing within you into a sort of co-creation of a home. So when you move outside of your home and you interact with other people, you interact with different environments or experiences, you are constantly trying to find the tune, trying to realign with the vibration that is you and make that play that symphony that is foreign to you. And this might be strange when you are connecting with a different person. This might be strange when you're connecting with a different landscape. This might be strange when you're connecting with a different environment. But it is the idea of what is going on in the cosmos. So in a sense, you are all bringing everything back home. And yes, we believe, yes, we are trying to make the channel not laugh, because this is of course also the title of a popular album from the 60s, we do believe. But so this is the idea that bringing it all back home is essentially the idea that everything is home. The galaxy is home. The cosmos is a home. Everything is a home. And so when you come back to this energy, it's to take those things that you want to separate from, that you have become disenchanted with, that you do not want to engage with, and then bringing them back into their home and fitting them into a place. And it may have to be that these things, they will have to be seated way out in the fields, far away from the farmhouse of the actual home where the heart and the hearth is, because this is where you connect, this is where you regroup, this is where you become yourself and you listen to that vibration. But essentially, you are realizing that everything is a home. And the idea of the hybrid program is very much that we are making a home for you in the stars. We are adjusting human energies to star-like and star-life qualities, and you are then, by interaction and opening to us, also opening up human life to the idea of first contact experiences, to the idea of bringing these energies into your experience field as something that's meaningful to you, that's expansive to you, that's you are able to embrace and accept, not as something that's threatening, not as a monster at the door, but instead as a playful fairy in the presence, suddenly present in your living room, alive with blessings, wanting to give you gifts and teach you lessons and go exploring with you out into the great unknown, which of course is just another room of the house that you have not yet seen. It's another place for the light of the hearth to reach. It's another place for your heart to shine on. It's another place for your navel to connect to. It's another place for your nose to smell and your tongue to taste. It's another symphony for your ears to listen. It's another view for your eyes to take in. It's another sensation for your mind to apprehend. And it is another spiritual reality that is essentially a part of you, that opens you up to enter into the great and the mysterious, all-known, not the unknown, but the all-known, the home, the highest home of them all, the home of the heavens, the place you remember that you once came from before you forgot, and that you went here to play, that you were away from home so you could find yourself playing, that you were going back home and that you were looking forward to this, so that, when you arrived, there would be a hot beverage, a nice meal, a place to warm yourself, something to understand and remember and reconnect with the most beautiful sensation of all, to rediscover that which you had forgotten, and that you had forgotten that you had forgotten. And so, with this message, I playfully, joyfully, with great excitement and great love for humankind, I leave you and I offer you the blessings and the love for me and the entire Yahyel civilization, and therefore feel blessed. Much love to you this day, sweet humans. We will meet again. We are with you when you are with us.